What's good, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Take Time Out with Tre Mosley, and I am your host, Tre Mosley, and today I have a young lady who hails from the Bay.
Hey.
Not Green Bay, not the Bay of Pigs. We're talking about San Francisco, Oakland, Alameda, the Bay.
Bay Area. California.
But before we get into Miss Ladeinde, I've been practicing her name for the past it don't matter, but I got it right.
You got
Let's
it.
roll her clip and show you what she's got. Ryan, if you will.
All my beautiful furry friends.
You nasty. Oh, you better not touch me with that hand. Ugh. You been snacking on baby diapers or something?
Dubuque is rich in history, mixing people, places, ideas, and values into the diverse cultural fabric that we are proud to call our city. We make new school skincare, and you're probably wondering, what does that even mean, bro? And we're like, hang on, we'll tell you, geez. A Follow Me Home session will likely be a new experience for your customer. So start by telling them what to expect. You know the Tinder date was good when you changed their last name from Tinder.
I hope that's romantic all my life.
It starts with a swipe. Hey, you. Want to strike a deal? Don't get in my way, okay? Let's take this to the stores. Canada, Denmark, India, Italy, Japan, Norway, Singapore, Sweden, the UAE, and the United Kingdom have joined the US to create early markets for clean technologies through policy measures and private sector engagement. He squeezed tighter until I felt the rapid beat of his heart against my cheek. I shouldn't have left you. Felix, I'm fine. Well, I can't breathe, but I'm fine.
Everyone has leadership capacity, and every person can make a difference right where they are.
This is no ordinary cup. This Scooter's coffee cup was served with a genuine so good to see you again smile. This cup has a little boost of energy just for you. This cup came with extra whip for good luck.
We lost!
You'll get them next time.
Here we come.
You get a premium. You get a premium. Everyone gets delicious premium.
Wow. To say she's multifaceted would be an understatement. I bring to you Yinka Ladeinde.
I dang it. Hey.
What's going on, my dear?
You know. Stuff.
She's like, stuff.
Stuffs.
I was kind of sitting here listening to that demo when that audio book, and he squeezed me. I'm like, whoa, can we get away with that? Like, that was kind of strong. I was like, and what else is he gonna do?
He was just giving her
And
a hug. It was just a hug. See?
I'm just saying, one man's hug is another man's. Well, you know what? That's not what we're here to talk about. Well, actually, it kind of is what we're here to talk about: voiceover and all things like.
Hey.
So, how does one, in the Bay, because most people, are in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and every now and then you'll have some folks that are not in those three cities. I was in Florida at one point. Um, and you're kind of up there in NorCal doing your thing. But before we go there, we're going to wind the clock back because on this show we talk about the before. We've seen the after. We've seen the work. We've seen the real and good work it is. But let's go into the before. So before Inca was, voice actress extraordinaire. Uh Who was she before? Was she a theater baby? Because I have a lot of friends who start off in the theater, or did you just one day go, my friends have been telling me I have a great voice. Like, what's the story?
So I've always been, uh, extra, real extra. Um,
You don't say.
yeah. Since I was a child. There's actually a video that I posted, like, last year or something like that of me. I found it of me when I was 10, and I was like, "Dun, da, da, da," like, in front of a camera. There's a camera? It was awful. And hilarious. And then I did some theater in high school and a
Mhm.
little bit after high school, and then, I would, like, sing in church and do plays, and then did some, like, spoken word poetry stuff a little bit after high school, and then, I traveled for a while with this nonprofit that allowed me to do some of that stuff as well, and then I
Nice.
came home in 2012 and basically just slowly rotted away and doing nothing at all nothing at all creative for, like, 9 years. And
Oh,
then
wow.
yeah, it was people were just like, "You used to do this and that." I'm like, "I came home and I got a real job." The way that
Ah, yes.
yeah.
Well, that's interesting because, you know, I've just from different stories and different travels when it pertains to this business, you usually hear about the people who were doing the mundane 9 to 5, punch in, punch out, punch in, punch out. And then they go and discover the art of voiceover. You were already in the arts and then cut it off and went to the 9 to 5. Um, Explain that transition because I don't think I've heard that before where someone, is already in the industry, maybe not voiceover, but just
Oh,
in the arts itself and being a creative. How do you go from being super ultra creative to, I think I'm done. Gonna go make a sandwich and go punch this clock and crunch these numbers and get on the
yeah.
customer service or whatever you were doing and this is my life now.
Well, I mean, so I was really heavily into it, like, in high school, at the end, like, second half of high school, and then I was part of a nonprofit that allowed me to be creative. Allowed slash even forced sometimes in a lot of ways, like, they discovered that, "Oh, you write poetry? Okay, great. We're gonna do this thing, and you're gonna write a poem, and you're gonna perform it." I was like, "What?" So, there was a lot of, like, that kinda stuff, and then
Gotcha.
when I was with the nonprofit, it was, like, faith-based, and I traveled, I lived in Brazil for, like, 6 months, did a bunch of stuff. I was doing administration at the same time, so it was nonprofit that allowed me to be creative, but it wasn't necessarily the industry, and I wasn't getting paid. So when I
Okay,
came
gotcha.
home in 2012, it was like, "I'm not getting paid. Now I have a degree, and I have administrative experience. Oh, the county's hiring? Okay. Well, I worked in nonprofits."
Now it's time to
Which
work
is
for some
not the
profit.
same thing. Yeah,
Got
it's not the same thing, and people think it is, but it is not. Yeah, and so it basically just that creative side had to go because I can't work for no money for my whole entire life, so
I'm trying to tell you. It reminds me of this guy who wanted me to do some work for him. He said, "Man, think of all the exposure you'll get." I'm like, "If I want exposure, I'll go walk outside with no shirt in the sun.
Right.
That's exposure
You gonna pay my,
until the heat."
mortgage with
But
exposure?
exposure ain't paying bills, buddy.
Right.
So
It's awesome.
that's a no.
I mean, it was
So
cool. I mean, they paid my room and board, but it just you can't, like, after that was done, it was like, "Okay, now I have to actually, live."
yeah, the real world beckons. No, I totally get that. So now that you're back,
Back.
and like I said, you're punching this clock. What were you doing when you got back?
So I got a job first with, when the Affordable Care Act came out,
Mhm.
signing people up for that in California.
Gotcha.
And then moved over because it was county, so I moved over to the social services department, so I was working as a eligibility worker and signing people up with cash aid, um, food stamps, Medi-Cal, all that stuff, and so I
Gotcha.
was doing that, um, for a good 8 years after that 1 year at the call center. Yeah, and
Oh, the call center.
Woo!
Call centers, at least for me, call centers were my stage
Mm,
because I was not quite yet looking at voiceover. I didn't really know what it was called. I just knew you had folks that acted or voiced stuff. I just thought everybody was an announcer. Oh, that's the cartoon announcer.
mhm.
He did Deputy Doggo. He announced. I didn't have a name for it. But when I was at the call center, and depending on what time of day, you may get just, "Hi, thank you for calling. This is Trey," or it could be, "Hey, thank you for calling. It's Trey. How can
Oh,
I help you?"
oh, you
And
had
then
fun with it.
an hour later, it's like, "Hello, thank you for calling. This is Trey. May I please have your loan number?" "Excellent. Are you calling to make a payment? It seems that you are 90 days in default. I may have to schedule a payment arrangement for your property, or you may risk going into foreclosure."
Did y'all not have
And
AC? Like, I guess they wouldn't
so
know, right?
yeah, so I had fun with it. I had a lot of these moments where my manager's like,
Ah,
I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "Yeah." Um, like, "What's with the voices?" I'm like, "Look, I work the late shift.
just
I'm in here from 11 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night,
right.
and it gets boring
What
because,
is it?
the 8 to 4s and the 9 to 5ers are leaving, so it's like all your friends like, 'Bye,'
Right.
and, you go from a office of 100 people or 200 people to now it's just the night shift crew, and there's like 20 of us, and we just
Doo-doo-doo-doo. Now, was it like back to back to back to back calls?
um, from 11 that morning till about 3 or 4 in the afternoon because we were handling I was living in Florida, so East Coast. So we handled a lot of the West Coast calls because 11 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock here. Well,
Mhm.
here now because I'm on the West Coast. So those folks are just waking up.
Mhm.
So by the time 3 o'clock hits Eastern, it's 6 o'clock back on the West Coast. Folks are, either getting off work, they're already home, and uh the I forget what the people call, but the Fair Credit Act, there's a thing where you can't call people
After a
after a
certain
certain
time.
time. And I was like, come on, 8 o'clock, because that meant if it's 8 o'clock here, that we can't make no more East Coast calls
Right.
because we don't want to be in violation.
5 o'clock.
And most of the people in the West Coast, they weren't picking up. So we just leaving messages,
Mm.
messages, messages, messages. And every now and then we we get the inbound call. I'm like, "Who's calling in?
Oh.
What do you want?" And, "Hi, you guys left me a message." I'm like, "You called back?
Who calls back?
Who called?" Right! So, yeah, customer service was my breeding ground for many of the characters that, were in my head. They gave it a legitimate escape to get out.
Oh, nice.
Uh, so, yeah, um, yeah, I had a lot of characters, a lot. Uh But I digress. So, back to you. So we're slowly moving through work and, be it great work, fun work, slow work, it was work. It was paying bills. He was just in the matrix, so to speak. When does the transition come to
So
where
so one
I was just
thing
go ahead. I was
oh,
just gonna ask, when did the transition come that you went, all right, this work thing is cool, but my creative juices starting to flow? Like, what was the transition that got you back into
um,
things?
so what's funny is I didn't think that I was going to be leaving my job, but I was obsessed with audiobooks. I've been obsessed with listening to audiobooks since, like, 2010, And so that would be the thing, like, I'd be at work, and when I'm not on the phone actively, I would be listening to an audiobook all day. So I ran through audiobooks like crazy. And when, 2020 and I kept thinking like, "Oh, that would be so cool to do that." I could I feel like I would have a lot of fun doing that, but, like, not knowing. I had kinda looked it up, but I didn't know. I knew there was something called ACX. So when 2020 happened, I was like, "I don't do anything anymore. I don't sing, I don't act, I don't do anything." So the goal for 2021, let's look into this thing called ACX and see if I can put one sample out there and see if anything happens from that. It was literally it. That's just the goal for the entire 2021. Um, and then when 2021 hit, I discovered Clubhouse, which allowed me to open up my mind to other. I didn't even think about, like, my friend when I was younger, one of my, friends that was in, like, the theater and stuff with me, he had wanted to be a voice actor. I knew he did, but I didn't really know what the heck that was. Um, and so when I was on Clubhouse, and I just lived on Clubhouse because we were all locked in the house and everybody was on Clubhouse. So I was one of those
Yeah.
people that was just I would just sit on there all day and listen to everything that everyone was saying, and I learned so much, and then started taking classes and stuff, and I didn't even after I started auditioning and stuff in the middle of 2021 and started booking jobs, I still people would be like, "Oh, so you might be able to do this for a career," and I'd just be like, I mean, we're not trying to be poor. Let's hold on a second. This is fun, but we'll see. Well, no, let's see what happens. Because I'm thinking like this is a fluke. This is a fluke.
Hmm.
I was thinking, because they kept telling me what I kept hearing was that, oh, it's so hard to book. It's so hard to book. Even the best people, like they'll book like out of 100 jobs, they'll only book like one. So like, don't expect a lot. So I wasn't expecting a lot. um,
That's a bad ratio, by the way. I mean, that's just a horrible ratio. It would be more like for every what? I'll give you a good number. Say, let's say every 25 auditions, you book 3. That's closer, but 100 to 1? You might well just live in a box and come on, man. Tell
but
them they
but
were
but
wrong.
like,
But,
is that a ratio that's average for everybody, or just people who are competitive?
uh, well, I'll say this. When I first started, in VO back in 2009, I had no representation. Uh, I just had a mic and a dream,
Right.
and I did a lot of pay to play stuff. I would if I'm out and about and I saw a store, some like mom and pop store or something, I'm like, "Hey, man, y'all don't have commercials for your restaurant?" "Nah, we were thinking about it." And then I would go home and write up a script real quick and be like, "Come on down to Mom and Paul's, Shrimp Emporium, and we got it." I'm like, "Here, listen to this." "Oh, that's pretty good." "Yeah, if you want, you could play it on the air. Uh, Name your price." And I knew nothing about prices. They're like, "Well, yeah, we'll buy it off you for $150." I'm like, "Yeah,
Right.
all right, I'm doing voiceover, hot dang." And did not know that I was shortchanging myself, but because it just felt good to be working,
Right.
I kinda fell into the lull of, "Well, alright, this job gave me $75 and that one gave me 150." And this guy was like, "Hey, man, you'll do my voicemail?" I'm like, "For real? Yeah, I got a barber shop and I want a professional sounding voicemail." I'm like, "Thank y'all for calling, Ray's barber shop. Ray's not in right now. His office hours are 9 to 5." I was just
Mhm.
whatever way I could do it, but, um, as I started to entrench myself into this, business and decided to make it, to give it a go, um, I found a happy medium of auditions to bookings. I didn't try to I think sometimes where people and I don't wanna say fail because that's too strong a word, but I think the misconception is that you have to do tons and tons and tons of auditions to get your booking ratio up. I disagree, and here's why. I feel if you audition for the things that are right for you and that you feel you can have a real strong chance of getting, you're going to see your ratio go up. When I first joined my first major agency, any and everything they sent, I was like, oh, I got to run back home. Y'all just got 5 auditions. And I was sending them bad boys out. Even if I knew the specs did not ask for me, I'm like, I just want to make good impression and send the auditions out. And yeah, let's say I send out 25 auditions that day. But if I really didn't fit the specs of the audition, especially back then where you had to be really specific with the specs. Now it's a little bit more lax because more representation
Mhm,
is at the forefront, thankfully.
mhm,
But back then it's like, well, I gotta nudge my way in here somehow.
mhm.
Um, it's a little different now, but back then I was auditioning for any and everything till the agent actually reached out and was like, "Hi, Trey." I'm like, "Uh-oh, you don't have to audition for everything. We're getting to know you, you're getting to know us. So let's help each other out. What are some things you'd like to do? Oh, well, I'd like to do blah, 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 blah. Okay, we'll send those type of auditions when we get them. What are some things you think, I could do it, but I'm not very strong at? Okay, well, that's this, and this. Okay, well, we may send a few of those things. And what's something you absolutely just know it ain't happening? This. Okay, we won't send you any of those. And once the
You
audition
curate it.
process was tailored, then the bookings went up. So, kids, if you're listening, it's not that you gotta do 50 million auditions. You could do 10, and if those 10 fit the criteria of what your talent level is, your bookings will go up. I'll get off my soapbox now.
But
So,
when you're still finding out what you're good at,
yeah,
try it all.
yeah, true. Try it all, but then once you kind of like,
Once you start
it's like
noticing the things that you well, for me, because for me, when I first started, I started on, a pay to play that you could see in real time if they, they'll give you a little green check mark or thumb or whatever if they shortlisted you. So I
yeah,
started seeing the stuff that I would get shortlisted for, and I started seeing the stuff that I would book, and then I got to know myself a little bit more of what I was good at and what would fit. And if I read something and it just felt clunky, I wouldn't do it. But I didn't know until I did it.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely a checks and balances. You have to, and I'm not saying don't do the 100 auditions, but there's going to be a point in time where you don't have to always do 100 auditions. If you just feeling like, you know what, I just drank me a whole boatload of tea, my pipes ready, I'm gonna give you these 100 auditions. Do it, but don't do it every day.
Right.
You know, find the balance, and like Yinka was saying, eventually you'll start to see what books for you, what short lists you, and what just ain't calling you back. Then you start to scale it down. Uh, and speaking of scaling it down, um, once you started auditioning, um, were the bookings instant? Did it take a while? Like we were saying, how some folks do umpteen auditions and then they may get one booking. Like, what was your ratio, and when did it click for you that okay, they're starting to call me back, or I'm starting to the bookings are starting to uptick? Because considering you had left the corporate world, well, COVID made us leave the corporate world. And now I was on Clubhouse just like you when they did the Wiz and they did the Harry Potter play. I'm like, y'all doing whole productions up
Yeah,
in this
right.
place.
It was real serious.
It
Yeah,
was real theater of the mind had
right.
come back. Um, you know, walk us through so you from the Clubhouse phase to where you're like, let me see about this VO thing because you had the naysayers like, girl, don't do it. But then in your head, what were you saying to yourself?
Well, I mean, I don't know that anyone told me not to do it. It was more so manage your expectations
Yeah.
this kind of thing. And I was still doing my day job. It was just we were working from home, so I had time. Like it was like a little podcast on the side that I would listen to while I work. Um, and so when I started, so I trained, did a lot of like, you know, uh, workout groups and stuff like that from like February through June. And
Mhm.
then in June I started auditioning, and I didn't book any. Maybe I got through like I don't remember exactly how many before I booked one, but I booked a small job at the end of June. I started auditioning at the beginning, booked a small
Yeah.
job at the end of June. I wasn't doing that many auditions, like maybe because I remember I upped the amount that I was doing. So I think I started with like how many was I even doing? Maybe 10 or 15 a week. Maybe that's even less, maybe 10 a
Mhm.
week. Um, I booked a little job at the end of June. I didn't book anything until the end of July again. And then I was like, "You know what? Let me kick this up a little bit." And so I had like a goal of 25 auditions a week to do. And that's when I started consistently doing that. And that was like for me that was a lot because it still took me a lot of time to do the auditions and kick them out. I was still learning all of that. Um and then I started booking, and literally from like I remember it was like August, all of a sudden I started booking a lot of jobs. And I was just like, "Wait, I thought that this was not supposed to happen." I had a booking
Mhm.
ratio of like 16 to 1. Like it was like I was
Wow.
like, "I don't know what's happening, but I love this." What's that, you know? Um, and so by the end of the year, I had, you know, like over 40 jobs booked on that
Nice.
site, and then I got an opportunity because I was like, "Okay, well, now I have," because I didn't have any demos, I just had, like, samples, they were so awful, but my friend helped me put some music to it, and then, like, on to me personally, like, on the pay-to-play sites, the actual demo doesn't matter because 'cause you're doing a bunch of auditions anyway,
Yeah.
I would even, like, put the demo like, put, like, an audiobook clip of me reading an audiobook and tag it as stuff that it wasn't. TV,
Yeah.
da, 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 just so that I can get those auditions. Um, and yeah, it was when I kicked it up and was consistent with a higher amount of auditions, I booked a higher amount of jobs. That I know
Yeah.
for sure. Um, I had a lot of friends that I was, starting out with that either didn't have time or didn't have the motivation to do a higher amount, and their progress was a little bit slower. And then when I started freelancing with Atlas at the beginning of it was the January when I, met one of the Atlas people, at this, like, meet and greet thing where you meet with different people for 10 minutes
Yeah.
or whatever.
They have the mixers and stuff.
Mhm, and I got to read for one of them, commercial, and then, yeah, started in February, doing Atlas auditions, and I was scared because I was like, I don't know if this transfers from pay to play to, like, real stuff.
Yeah.
Um Right, but apparently it did, because then I started booking. I didn't have the same ratio, I don't think, but, like, I would yeah, then I started booking with Atlas, and then so I don't know, and my whole thing was, like, I wanna do it all, so I didn't that was my thing, I was like, "I want to do everything." There's still some things that I'm like, maybe I'll never do it. I don't know if I'll ever do, like, radio imaging, not because I don't like it, I think it's very cool, I just don't know I don't listen to the radio, and so I don't know I just don't know I wouldn't even know what to do with it. So
Yeah. It's no, I definitely understand because when I got into VO, I just wanted to do games and cartoons and animation and games. Uh but sometimes, they say if you want to hear God laugh, tell him what your plans are.
mm,
And I'm like, I'm gonna get in this business and I'm doing games and cartoons. That was in 2009. I got my first game in 2019.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, a whole decade went by and got my
I
first game. Now, since then, I've been, and that was Madden, and I've been with them now for 5 years. Uh, so I did Madden, um, Starfield as of late. Um, I just did another game that'll be coming out soon for the kiddies. I did a couple of VR games, did some zombie games. So I've been doing games, but 10 years before I got my first video game. So it's one thing to have a purpose and say, I am gonna do a thing. And you still may do it, maybe not that year, maybe not the first 3 years, maybe not the first 5, but, 10 years down the road, I'm like,
I get
I
you.
got
Now, so, like, was that because you weren't getting the auditions, or was that, like, what would you say that was?
it's a little bit of both. So getting into the business in '09, I didn't really know, uh, the business side of it, how to attract folks that are game developers, how to attract folks that are creatives or casting directors. I just thought based on what I saw on the YouTubes, you make a kick-ass demo and just start sending it out. But thing was, send it out to who? I didn't
Right.
want to just send it to, hey, I want to send this to Square Enix. Here you go. This is my demo. And don't know who the person is. They like, this don't go to us, delete. So I didn't have an idea of where I should be sending this stuff. Part of it was also fear and doubt because you're playing these games and you're watching these cartoons like they are really good. Man, he did 6 characters in that game. I just wanna play a little elf on the shelf or something, but this dude, he was the elf, he was the demon, he was the angel, he was the cop, he was the little boy. I'm like, I don't know if I can do all that. So, oftentimes the fear was very paralyzing and real, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just not gonna do that." But then a new game would come out, and I'm like, "Man, he sounds good." And now I'm walking around the house. I would always play video games, and to this day, I still do, with the subtitles because
Mm,
the way it's written on paper is totally different from how we act it out. So I would be playing a game and then it would come across the screen. I would start to say it as if I was in the game. And then hearing them like, oh, that wasn't too far from what he said. Okay, okay, yeah. And they're like, man, you gonna send all this to the so and so? Nah, I'm not.
uh,
So it was just, and I've learned now, since then, you know, never to really compare, not never really, just don't compare yourself to anyone else's journey in this business. Yes, there are going to be people who have started years and years and years before you. Um, but one day you all may end up being on a cast together or being colleagues and friends. I just had Dave Fenoy on and, watching and listening to this dude in games. And then we end up being in the game together. I'm like,
hey.
I'm with him.
Yeah.
The certain things to say is I'm with him, I'm with him. So you never know what can happen. But yeah, it took 10 years before I got my first game. Um, Animation. I did a couple of indie things in animation. I still have not booked a major animation role, but I feel that that's going to come when I finish creating my own series, which is currently in production.
Ooh,
And then, yeah,
love
that's a
that.
whole nother story. So yeah, it took a minute. It took a minute. Um, what do you feel? Well, before I ask the next question, I want to get to this question. So now that the ratio has gone up, the work has gone up, you've got the eyes and ears of one of the top agencies in the country. Um, Being that I'm also on that roster, I know how I
Yes.
felt when I got that call. So you're just lottie-dying, doing some auditions, or maybe not. Maybe you just chilling, and all of a sudden, zzz, 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 you like, Like, what was going through your head or, what explain that feeling because I don't think people understand how, uh, when you've been working towards something and you get the attention of people who, are in position to really now light that fuse on your rocket and you can just what was that like when you got the call?
So it wasn't a call. Well, okay. Are we talking about when I started
And it doesn't have to
freelancing
be
or
it doesn't have to be a
when they
physical call, but when the moment happened.
'cause okay. And hear me out.
Okay.
Hear me out.
Uh-oh, here we go.
I had been auditioning for 6 months.
Mhm.
Knew stuff, but I didn't know stuff. I was not familiar with how big of a deal that was until
Ah.
I told my like, I literally I had the meet and greet thing,
Mhm.
that was, and then, like, right a a couple days after, I was meeting with a small agency because I had sent out stuff for agency stuff in that December, and this was January, and this was an agency that replied. They set up a meeting with me. I'm on the call with them, and they're just like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," like, they kept talking about how, like, "Oh, yeah, animation and video games," and for me, I have so many friends that were animation game or bust VOs, and I was just like, "I
Mhm.
mean, that sounds like it's a lot of, competition, and, like, that's great, but, like, what can I book and get me money?" And I was booking, commercials and
Yeah.
corporate and audiobooks, and with audiobooks, I get to be all the characters. The thing that you were talking about how you would, play video games and do the
Read the
subtitles,
subtitles? Yeah.
I used to listen to audiobooks, and if if the narrator said something in a way that I was like, "Oh, that's not quite right," I would have to pause it and say it out loud in the way that it was supposed to be said, like,
Yeah, I dig it.
I was like that person. So for me, I was like, "I'm getting my creative, acting juices from this,
Right.
like, what do I need?" So they're telling me, "Yeah, but then your voice is good for da da da," and I'm not hearing anything about commercial, and then they're like, "Okay, so we're gonna sign you," and I was like, they were like, "What, are you, like, looking to other?" Because I had just emailed the Atlas person, and he was like, "Oh, we're really excited, um, we'll get back to you in, 2 days," or whatever, and I was like, "Well, I am looking at someone," that they were like, "Tell us who it is, tell us who it is, we'll tell you if they're good," and I was like, "Atlas?" And they were like, "Oh, okay, well, but, like, if you go there, you'll be, uh, you'll be, like, one of so many on the roster, like, you get the same stuff here," and, like, basically told me I would be a small fish in a
You
big
get lost in the
pond,
shuffle? Yeah.
um, and, I mean, which is not I mean, I don't know, so that scared me, so that was the thought when I told my mentor at the time. I was like, "Yeah, they said that they would wanna, me to freelance." So I gave up an actual, like, sign with us to do a freelance. They were like he was like, When Atlas says, 'Do you want to?' You say yes." I said, "Oh,
Mhm.
okay, so that's okay. So we're doing this." But then it sunk in later. I was more just scared. I was scared because I was like, "Guys, I'm just new. I'm just here."
Yeah.
And then now you're telling me this person told me that I was gonna be a small fish in a big pond, and that freaked me out even more because that's like imposter syndrome is so real for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole thing. So I'm just thinking like, "Don't F this up." So that was the literally just like a, "Will this translate? I don't know." I mean, I know I can book on this pay to play, but
Mhm.
can I even book with these people? Like, I don't even know. Like, they seem like a really big deal, and now I'm scared. So that was the feeling for me, was like, now I'm scared. And now, people like, "So how did you get signed with, you got some of those like, so
I've been
how
there.
did you, you know,
Yeah.
got an email, anonymous email talking about, oh, well, hate email, but I won't even give that life." But yeah, it's yeah, that was my feeling. That was my thought.
You bring an interesting perspective because a lot of um voice talent who get into this business, they know the top agencies. So when you ask them, hey, especially if they're at, such and such boutique agency, if you had a chance to be on a large roster or what agency, and they usually will rattle off the same 5 or 6 agencies. Uh, I think your perspective is refreshing because you were just kind of like, well, I didn't really understand the magnitude. I knew they was cool or whatever, and then all of a sudden, I'm with them, and people like losing their mind, like, girl, you with who? So that's kind of dope because I think what that says is, at least from me peeking into your window, um, there are some folks, like you said, they have a specific genre or bust. There are some people, if I don't get with this agency, it's a waste. You were just kind of like, look,
I'm having fun. Y'all gonna pay me for this? Y'all
yeah,
pay me how much? Oh my god. Like, even the corporate stuff is fun. People listen, now I haven't had the opportunity to see myself, or hear my voice in, like, a cartoon or something like that, and I will soon.
claim it, name it and claim
Oh,
it,
no,
name it and
no.
claim it.
Oh, no, it's happening.
Oh,
Oh, no, it's
was
happening.
this an exclusive? Did you just break
No,
on my
no, no, no.
show?
I
Breaking
I didn't say
news.
nothing, I'm just saying it's happening. It's gonna happen.
Oh, okay, okay.
Um, I won't say any more, but it's gonna happen. Um, so we'll see if it's different. We'll see if it's different when that does come up. But, like, when I hear my voice in a really well-produced commercial or, like, it is the coolest. I when I was watching, I knew it was coming on, but I was watching this football game, and then a commercial with my voice came on, and I was just like, "Y'all, you don't understand." That is for me, that is like I love commercials. Who doesn't love commercials? I love commercial. I love a well-produced, anything well-produced with my voice on it, I love that. And then audiobooks is a whole nother because that is like giving birth, I bet. Like, it is you I slaved over this. So the fact that, like, "Oh, this is my name on Audible," and it's an Audible and I love it. So for me, any genre, and we'll see if it was kind of a trip to hear myself on, little video game thing. Fun fact, my first video game was just they found me and said, "Hey, can you do this?" And I said, "Sure, how much?" And then they just gave it to me. Just
Yeah,
small
that
game and it was small game app game or whatever from Germany, and they said,
yeah.
"Yeah, take it." Um the second thing that I did was also like a request. So I don't my experience is not usual,
It
um,
it it's really
at
not.
all, and I know this, and I'm very thankful. I think that's all God. That's just me. I listen, God's favor has been all over this whole thing the way that it's only been 3 years, I guess,
Yeah, because in a
2 and a
relatively
half since I
short
actually
time,
started.
you've had a lot of success. I tried to get with Atlas not once, not twice, and they just wasn't hitting your boy back. I'm like, okay. And I'm literally kicking the can down the street like they just I guess I gave my best. I guess my best. I was really on Dump Street and I had a buddy who was on the roster and he, you know, connected the dots and here we are today. But no, your story is unique and I think it bodes well for anyone who's listening that everybody's story, everybody's journey. I know it's cliche, everyone's story is different, everyone's journey is different. It's true.
Mhm.
You have people like me who tried 3 times, and you have people like Yinka who, first
Stumbled into it.
we'll call it that.
But at the same time, There were I mean, I've been rejected by like, during that the actual the same time I met the Atlas guy, there were 2 other agents that were not feeling me at all. They were not checking for me. They were not impressed. So, it like, I've had a really fair share of rejection. It's been great.
Oh, we all do.
Yeah, yeah. Not
You
I'm
know,
not for everybody.
voiceover is like speed dating. It's like, "All right, impress me, go." Well,
Right,
that's nice. Next person, ding.
right.
Alright, you got 30 seconds to impress me, go. Oh, hmm, alright. We'll be in touch, and, it all it's chemistry, it's timing. Like you said, it's favor. It's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into to play and making this happen. So, audiobooks. I wanna get into that
Audiobooks.
because, whereas you love it,
A lot of people hate it. It's not for everybody. Listen, it's not easy.
I don't hate it. I think for me, and I have vowed to not do any audiobooks, and having said that, I've done audiobooks as characters. I have not done a full audiobook. I was in the process doing the audiobook, and after about the 2nd chapter, I had to hit the dude. I said, "Look, man, I ain't I lied. I can't do this. I can't. I have been here in here for 6 hours with breaks, and I can't." He's like, "Man, but your voice." I said, "I get it. I know all that. Yeah, the voice, yeah, but I can't do." He's like, "Well, what are we up to?" I said, "Ain't enough
It's
gold for a
not all
knot."
money is good money.
I'm trying to tell you. I'm like, "Look, I know y'all want me in this book, but
Man.
man." 'Cause my buddy, BZ Cullens, he's been on the show, and he's like, "Yeah, I just wrapped up audiobook, and I'm doing another one." I'm like,
I love
"For
that for
you,
you.
pal. I love that for you." He's like, "Tre Mo, they got some stuff."
You keep 'em.
Talk to the folks who, may be interested in audiobooks. Uh, go through, I know they have these TikTok videos and Instagram, the Get Ready With Me. What's a Get Ready With Me audiobook version? Like, what would that entail?
Of oof. Just of like what to, it is not for everybody. If it is not for everybody. First of all, if you if if you especially if you're coming from other versions of voiceover, shorter forms of voiceover, it's not going to pay you the way a 30-second commercial pays you either. Okay? I mean, unless you're maybe one of the really really top, you know, uh romance male people, it's not going to pay you like that either. And it's going to be a whole lot more work for less money.
Mhm,
But listen, if you love audiobooks, if you listen to audiobooks, if you love doing all the characters and telling the story, and you have the patience to slug through it, it is beyond cool of an experience to see the end product.
mhm.
It takes an incredible amount of patience. It takes an incredible amount of um I even sometimes joke I joke that it's like I have a love-hate relationship with it because it's like I adore audiobooks. It's the reason I found voiceover.
Yeah.
Um and sometimes I hate it. I'll get a book and I'll be like, "Oh, this is cool. Now I have to record it."
Oh,
Like,
see that.
and for me, I'm not the, I'm not the person that can just get in there and like, I'm gonna read a whole page and not mess up. Sometimes I'm literally messing up every other line. My pickups are not like I saw someone today say, "Usually I have no pickups. In this book, I got 30 pickups." I'm like, "My first book, I had 470 something pickups."
Oh, wow.
Hooked on phonics. Was a person. Like, I don't even understand how I ended up how did I get here? Um How do I do why do I do now, I don't have 470 whatever pickups every time, but that
Amen.
first book was um, but I felt like I had such a fun time doing all the characters, and I think what happens is that I like because just in general, my brain will add words, remove words. It happens sometimes even a lot of times even with copy,
Right.
commercial copy or whatever, like, my
Yeah.
if my brain wants to do the thing, it's just gonna do the thing. I don't know if I'm, like, just undiagnosed is, like, something, but it just sometimes doesn't fully compute. But eventually I get it. Eventually I get the flow, and, my whole thing is, like, I wanna give you the performance. I want you to be here with me. Come on now. Let's do this. But it is hard. It is hard. It is difficult, but it is incredibly rewarding when you get through it and you're like, I did that and that was good. And regardless of how many pickups it has, I have less pickups now and like it just keeps getting less and less. So yay me. Um but like it, how do you sell audiobooks? Um
Yeah.
it's don't do it unless you love it. 'Cause otherwise it's just gonna be miserable.
Yes. And to this day, I still feel bad that I told that dude, "Yeah, man, I'm all down. I'm all aboard." He's like, "All right, what is it's 9 chapters." I'm like, "9 chapters of what?" Of the book?
Wait,
Oh,
but wait,
great.
it was only 9 chapters?
Oh, okay, that leads into my next question. I was gonna ask you, what
Sir.
has been to date I don't even know if this is a fair question because you love the genre so much. Has there been an audiobook that has been very challenging for you to
Yes,
record?
absolutely. What? Well, everything. No, n okay, there are certain books that I've had, like, I'm reading and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so good." I'm laughing, I'm kikiing, I'm giggling, I'm doing the whole thing, it's so fun. And then there's other books where I'm like, "My brain want doesn't know what to do with this. And then I just slogging over it and oh, it's not working. It's feeling clunky. It's not ah, what do I do with this? And it ends up being longer than anticipated to record it. And then this one in particular ended up being longer in general. But it was like
Mm.
advertised just like hours and hours and hours. And it wasn't that I don't there aren't any books that I've done that I just didn't enjoy in general, but there are certain genres that that I read myself
Mhm.
all the time, and when I'm doing a book that's outside of that genre, it's I'm not going to enjoy it as much as a book that I would, literally read myself.
Yeah.
So I try to keep it to books that I would read myself or at least have it be short so that if even if it's a book I don't read myself, yeah, with very few exceptions. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but there haven't been any books that I, like, hated. If I hated it, I wouldn't do it at all.
Exactly. What's the biggest book or how would I guess biggest book or how many chapters? Like,
Longest?
what's been the one you've like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not talking for the rest of just I'm done."
Well, the longest book I've ever done is maybe, like, I think was it almost was it possibly, 12 and a half finished hours? Finished hours. Um, but I mean, that was split up within, 2, 3 maybe split up between, like, 3 weeks or something like that, maybe 2 and a half, 3 weeks. Um, the ones that are, like, long, although it's easier so Penguin Random House, you do live recordings. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so and what's cool about it is that even though it's a long period of time, so you're literally in there, you take breaks, but then you're there for a good 6 or 7 hours recording, but they let you do free roll, so you just press record, and then whoever's
Oh,
doing that will do their
and
thing.
they okay. I could
So you
probably
can get
do
through,
that.
like, 100 pages, Like, I can get through we'll get through 100 pages a day, which is nice, but at the end of those, man, my voice is like, let's go ahead and I have this, like, steamer. I have 2 steamers in here. There's one,
Oh, that's
and the other
dope.
one's over there. Yeah, just because. But that's the thing
How
too is yeah.
No, I was gonna ask, how was your like the vocal stamina? Like you said, for promo commercial folks, uh, hi. I can rattle off like I when I was doing the NASCAR campaign, we did tags and promos. I did like 40 in a row because they were really quick. NASCAR at Talladega this Sunday on Fox. And it was like, all right, next one, NASCAR at Pomona, NASCAR at so and so and so. The Gander Truck Outdoor Series takes us to so and so and so. I was just and they was like,
Oh, man.
hey, you've done like 30 of these in a row. You want to take a break? I'm like, nah, let's
I'm
keep
good.
going. But you said 6 6 hours. That's a
Man,
nap, baby.
it's a lot. It's a
That's
lot. It's
that's a
a lot.
plane ride and a nap. Like, wake me up when we land.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Jeez.
yeah. The time that it's been the worst, I remember it was the second book I ever did, and I didn't quite know. It was the first time that I had done a male voice, and I was trying to match the male narrator's voice.
Ooh,
And that you're not supposed to, you don't have to do that. I didn't know though. I didn't know. You just don't know what you don't know. Um,
right.
so I'm straining my voice. And that day I had woken up real early, done my, short form auditions, went to work, did work on the phone, all that stuff, came back, did 4 usually I would keep it to 4 hours of recording when I'm just recording on my own with punch and roll, but I
Yeah.
was trying to meet a deadline, so I was going, and there was a moment, and I still remember it was back when I was still in my closet, in my room. I'm going and I'm doing this voice that's just, like, ridiculous, and all of a sudden, I hear and feel a pop,
Ooh,
and I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, shoot, I broke it." Like, it's broken, I'm never like, I'm done, like, that's
I
it.
broken my
I
yeah.
broke it, and I almost felt or tasted blood, like, smelled blood, like, it was something happened. Someone told me that I need to, like, go see a, ENT
ENT, yeah.
to make sure that, like, I didn't actually injure something. That was, like, t t 1 2 years ago, and I still
Yeah.
haven't seen anybody, but, um and then I was just sore for the next few days, but I still had to, like, finish the book. It was due that night. So,
Oh,
I went for that one last chapter, but after, like, I was so sore. I skipped my auditions the next day and all of that.
yeah.
It was rough.
You may have possibly popped a vessel in here.
Mhm.
I've heard stories of, guys and girls who have done like, if they did video games all day, we're talking 3 and 4-hour sessions where they have to do those efforts and scream and holler. They're saying that they drink water and the water is bloody because all of this in here is fried. Um, Thankfully, though,
Aren't
you
there
healed
rules
up,
against that now?
but, yeah, it's crazy. The way the body has a way of letting you know you need to stop
Yeah,
and stop
calm
and
down.
stop and stop now.
Right.
Not then,
Expeditiously.
right
Right
now.
now. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, be careful there with that.
Don't do that. Oh, yeah, no, like, after that experience, I was like, "No. We're gonna be like, you're recording, you can record for up to 4 hours, and that's your limit, that's it. That's the limit for the union, is good enough for the union, is good enough for you." So, for me, I have a 4-hour recording limit on myself. So, like, if you're gonna get auditions done and do an audiobook, you better split it up.
Yeah,
It's
it's
gonna be
like
one or
truck
the other.
drivers. I think truck drivers are allowed to be on the road, like, up to 10 hours or something, then they gotta rest or something like that. At least that's what my
Mhm.
homeboy told me. Um, Genres. Now we're going within audiobooks. What are your favorites? What are some you like to do, and what are some you just go, "Mm-mm"?
Um, I have a really hard time with nonfiction in general. If it's gonna be nonfiction, let it be very short. Very, very short, and more than likely, if it's not a subject that I like or I just really would prefer not to do nonfiction, although I'm about to do 2 nonfictions, but they're stories, so it's a bunch of, like, different stories, so I can just be and I love storytelling, so I feel like that's a little bit different because it's like it's a story, I don't know. I don't know, but I try to avoid it unless it's something that seems manageable, um or like has some kind of nostalgia thing attached to it or something like that, which is the case for
Yeah.
these books. Um, my favorite genres, the ones that I listen to all the time, like romantic comedy and fantasy, romantasy. Um, I listen to those. I go back and forth between like the like dragons and da 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 da, and then like you know
Yeah.
10 Things I Hate About You in book form. Like, I love those 2 genres are my jam. Um, I love some young adult YA rom-com. I love. It's so fun. Um, the funnest book, let me not do that. Um, but, like, I love that. That those y between those 2, those are the
Mhm.
ones that I enjoy the most.
Cool. Now, what's on your no-no list?
I mean, it really just something that seems like e-learning in audiobook form? No. Because at least e-learning is gonna pay me more,
And I
and
love e-learning. I love
I
it so
mean,
much.
e-learning is great, but it pays more than, like, an
Mhm.
audiobook. So it's like, you wanna pay me audiobook rates and me do e-learning? Like, no. Thank you.
Yeah.
Love
Is
you.
there
I'd
a
rather
subject that's too taboo for you?
not that I can think of right now. Taboo? Not
Yeah,
not
because I know
really.
some people who will say, "Well, I won't touch anything religious. I won't do, like, erotica or things like that." They stick to, I know a buddy who does he loves reading biographies or, um, things like that, but if someone says, "Hey, we think you can play the sexy hunk," he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not gonna."
Okay, a book that's just erotica for the sake of being erotica, like, is there a story? Like, what's going on here? Like, that to me, like, I love that for those people, but like, I need it to have an actual story. But I do have a pseudonym, and my pseudonym does do romance. So,
We'll discuss that off camera. Um, because that's another thing where I have been approached, um there is an app, uh,
oh, I thought it might have been approached for that same app.
and they have approached me, to do some reading, and I'm like, "Oh, uh, as flattering as that is,
Yes.
let me get back to you, because you know, I don't want to have my name out there, especially if I'm doing promos and commercials and games and, kids like, "Hey, I love your game," and
Yeah.
and hi and his mom's like, "Have you heard him on the app, though?"
Oh my god.
Like, what are you talking about? Ew, you do that kind of stuff, and I don't need those
Yeah.
lines to be blurred, so,
You gotta
I have yet to, respond, uh, but I know it's out there, and they keep asking.
it's one of those things. I got approached by an app or a website or whatever it was, and I did turn it down because number 1 is like, you're not even paying enough for me to dang, I sound but, like, if I'm gonna do this, like, it better be worth even if I am using a pseudonym, it better be financially worth it for
Yeah,
me to
you
even
wanna
go
do
through
something
that.
that's worth your time, and
Yeah.
I totally
Um,
get that.
um, and then, just I don't know. I feel like it feels different doing for me, for whatever reason, doing an audiobook that has spicy scenes feels different from an app that's specifically just, like, I don't know,
That's
short
the
stories
thing.
of it.
Yeah.
It feels different, and I don't know if
Yeah.
there's an actual difference or if that's just I don't know, but
No, I
it
get you.
feels different.
It can be, because I too write spoken word, and um, in my formative years, in my 20s, I have gone when I was living in DC doing spoken word, and it was it wasn't even spicy. It was, you know, that little small pepper that you bite and you have to drink a whole gallon of milk. It was on that level at one point. It was like, dang, bro, I thought you was like the smart dude in the class. I'm like, I was, but while y'all was ignoring me, I was writing poems to the ladies. Like, read that. You wrote this? Uh-huh, I did. So no, I get it. Um, as we start to wind down with this episode, and again, thank you so much for hopping on. Um, what is there one thing you can say uh to someone who has watched this and maybe they were feeling a certain way about not only voiceover but audiobooks, and like we've already discussed, everyone's journey is different, but let's say their journey uh the plane's still on the runway and they are like, should I take off on this? What should I do? um what would be the motivating or inspirational thing you can tell them right now?
I would say keep going and don't surround yourself with people who are going to keep going. Because I'll tell you what, from what I've seen, just even in the small time that I've been around, is if you surround yourself with people who are either in a place farther than you to where you're trying to get to, or right alongside you and you're all hustling together, you get so much farther. You continue to be motivated. But if you're hanging around a bunch of people who are just like, I mean, yeah, I don't know, I kind of do it a little bit, y'all are all going to stay down there together.
Yeah,
So keep going and surround yourself with people who are going to push you to greatness. You all go together.
there you go. High tide, it raises all boats. Just
Mhm.
make sure your boats don't have any holes in them, because that high tide will sink you. And what that means, kids, is if you have good folks, lift each other up. But every now and then you had that one person, well, I don't think there's always a grumpy Smurf who's
Of
just sitting there.
course.
Well, Papa Smurf said you shouldn't do that. Move those people out of the way.
Yeah.
Bring folks in who are going
And they'll
to,
remove themselves.
they will reveal
They
themselves
they will reveal
every
and remove
single
themselves.
time.
Yeah.
Now, on to the favorite part of the show, the end. But this is why it's the favorite, because as you know, the podcast is called Take Time Out. And I get to ask you, my guest, Yinka, how does Yinka take time out for herself when she's not in the booth and reading and talking for 19,324 hours? Uh, how do you take time out for yourself?
Um, shoot. I am a workaholic. I guess when I'm not working, I'm probably listening to an audiobook or watching like a Korean drama or an anime or something. That is if I want to not work, I'm focusing on, you know, yeah. I still love audiobooks, so that's something that I do. Although is that now counted as work because I'm paying attention.
It could be work study.
Yeah.
So then that would qualify as work. So
Okay,
now,
so if we remove audiobooks, which
yes, if we
that's
remove
so
audio books,
sad, then yeah, anime and Korean dramas and like I love that stuff. I don't get to do it as much as I used to. I used to be obsessed a little
if
bit.
someone came a calling and said, "Hey, we want you to be in our anime," would you jump in?
So long as I didn't have to live in LA.
Oh, there you go.
Mhm.
I don't think
And
you'd have to.
if
No.
they weren't paying $5 an hour, anime don't pay a lot.
It doesn't, but people love it,
I
love
mean,
it.
I love it. I love it.
And I'm like,
But it
I'm not
requires you to be in the studio, and it's gonna pay you 5 cents an hour.
like, why am I in here? You know what? That's another topic
That's a
for
whole
another
'nother
time.
thing, but I
Yeah,
love it. Yeah.
I do. And, I have seen anime evolve over the decades. I'll be 50 this year, and I remember the first thing I ever saw. I didn't realize it was anime. It was a cartoon called Speed Racer, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Why is he talking so fast, though?" And I didn't realize that it was Japanese. So the English version, they had to talk real fast like this. Come on, Speed, we gotta go. I'm like, what? Why is everybody in such a rush? I don't get it. And it was explained, well, because they're dubbing I'm like, what's that? And yeah. But to
Mhm.
see it now, uh, leaps and bounds, it has just exploded. But yeah, they need to come on with the come on. Um, so Yinka, if folks want to follow your goings on the social medias and things and such and such and such, how can they reach you?
I'm pretty much at Yinka's Voice everywhere. So, at Yinka's Voice, YINKASVOICE. I spelled that right?
I hope so.
I hope so.
It's your name, silly.
No, I mean, my name was spelled correctly, but it was the
Okay,
voice
great.
part. So
Yes,
sweet. Hooked on phonics.
it's
Hooked on phonics. Um,
I
yeah.
think he got it right.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not really I mean, I'm not the things that I'm on the most active is Instagram and TikTok, and uh, that I'm most active on those two. Facebook too, but that's like more like private stuff or whatever. I have a private account there, but I am on like Twitter and LinkedIn and all that other stuff too, but I don't really I just like occasionally drop stuff on there.
And I know you said that, and this is going to be, I gotta even ask the question, like, how do folks? I guess ACX has a thing, but if they want to find books that are voiced by you,
Oh,
how would they do that?
Audible. You can search my name.
Okay. Okay, simple enough. So
Yeah.
yeah, go to Audible, look her name up. By the time this is produced, we'll have all that on the screen, all nice and pretty and stuff. And that'll be that. Um, I would like to thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking some time out to talk with us. And folks, I'm glad you all took time out to sit and listen and or watch wherever you are. And with that, we say goodbye. And don't forget, take some time out for yourself.
Yeah.
And goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Take Time Out with Tre Mosley podcast, part of the Titan Media Network. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. To see the video version of this, you can find us on YouTube on the Take Time Out with Tre Mosley YouTube page. Thanks for listening, or thanks for watching. Either way, we'll see you next time.